Saturday night playoff game. We got word of that at halftime of the late game. Boy, that was a good game. And yeah, the Bears will host the Green Bay Packers at 7 o'clock Saturday night at Soldier Field.
Good morning, Mully. Happy Monday. Happy New Year. And welcome to the NFL playoffs. Welcome back, Chicago Bears. Been a while, and that is where we are.
Yes.
The regular season concluded last night. What a game. We'll get to that. But the postseason begins, and the Bears season continues.
Yes.
This is great in Chicago. We'll dissect the game and be as critical as you want us to be, and we need to be. But on the day after the regular season is over, the Bears are still playing football. Yep. And it's been a while since we've been able to say that here.
And the reality is that I don't think we need to spend a boatload of time breaking down that game. That wasn't a very good game. That wasn't worthy of a ton of time. We're more than willing to talk about it. But it's Packers week. I mean, here it is. It is a Monday morning, back to work Monday. A lot of people were off for the holiday, and guess what?
Guess what?
Back to work for the Chicago Bears. This game is right around the corner, and they have got to be ready in a hurry. They've got to get better.
They do.
This week.
They do. The context being that the good news, if you want to look at it this way, the good news is they will get to work at Hallis Hall in a bad mood.
Good.
They will get there in a bad mood.
Yes.
They will have an edge that has been sharpened. Ben Johnson was as agitated post-game as I have seen him this year. He was seething at the podium. He was probably mad at himself a little bit. He was upset with his team, and he was disgusted with the result. That was the second time he played the Lions and the second time he lost to his former employer. I get all that. From a state of mind standpoint, the Bears really are where you want them to be. There will be no complacency. There will be no overly celebrated loss this week. No. That was last week's story. Mm-hmm. This week's will be a team going into the playoffs with something to prove.
You know, I got to tell you, David, I think that that part of the problem with what has unfolded in front of our eyes with the Bears is that I made the horrible decision to make sure that I watched that San Francisco-Seattle game just to sort of judge how good are the Niners. Man, did they handle the Bears pretty well. Mm-hmm. Boy, that was a good game. But what did we really learn? Seattle was scary in that game. The way they manhandled the San Francisco 49ers, the way the Bears couldn't do anything with them, and then seeing Seattle handle them, that was kind of disturbing. That started my almost free fall from watching that game to watching the Bears' performance.
I understand that reaction. I do. Because like everybody else, you're watching the 49ers, and coming out of the Bears game, I thought they looked like the class of the NFC.
Yes.
That offense looked like the best unit left or headed into the postseason. And then Seattle's defense now looks like it could be maybe,
that's right,
one, at least in the NFC, the best unit left in the playoffs. I also think this, Mully, and you can speak to this as well. It's hard to understand how teams like the 49ers can look like world beaters one Sunday night and then come back 6 days later and be as flat as they were. Same thing happened with the Bears yesterday to some degree. The Rams have gone through that up and down phase where there is just an inevitable letdown. Not an excuse, but I do wonder how that affects our impressions of how good these teams are and how viable their playoff chances will be. Because the Bears, they are going into the playoffs on a 2-game losing streak. It's not ideal.
Not ideal.
But I don't know if there is much momentum to point to in the playoffs from the regular season to the postseason.
Yesterday's game felt like a preseason game. I don't know if that is a lack of motivation for the team, if that is the coaching staff being as vanilla as possible. I know that the coach said that he wasn't as vanilla as possible, but it felt like you don't really want to reveal anything as you're going into the playoffs. And there was just this sort of flatness to the Bears' performance that may have been attributable to the fact that they had already not nail down the number 2 seed, but clearly the Philadelphia Eagles thought the Bears were going to win. They didn't play their starters the whole game.
They conceded even more so than anybody else that played yesterday.
So what does that tell you about the way they thought the Chicago game was going to go? I just think that
I think also
it's very interesting to look at it through that lens.
It is. I also think we have to attribute or concede the different organizations view the final week, the final game.
Absolutely.
Of the season and what purpose it serves. Because you're talking about the Packers and the Eagles, who both have playoff experience the Bears don't have. And they both believed and made decisions to rest their starters, which they don't do in Chicago. They play football. Did you get that yesterday, Ben Johnson? And they didn't really, I don't think, play like home field mattered to the Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions.
Exactly.
So they're like, all right, fine.
I don't think it does. I think for them, they feel if they're at their best, they'll beat anyone
for them,
wherever the game
defense
is played.
travels well. And if their defense is clicking and the running game is as well, they're going to be a difficult team to eliminate. So I respect what they did. The Packers, I understand to a lesser degree. But the Bears, this is new territory. This is definitely new territory. So if they want to go out and play as hard as they did yesterday in terms of playing all their starters, I applaud that, because you need to know what you're. I think it would have felt incomplete. You have achieved really nothing in the postseason to give you that kind of grace that you're going to give the Packers and the Eagles. They have earned the benefit of the doubt in the way the Bears have not.
Yeah, but there are still a couple of warning signs that are sitting there.
No question.
You may be the number 2 seed in the NFC, but you didn't even have a winning record in your division. That is a fact. And that is embittering as a fact. I think that when you look at the way the season has fallen for the Bears, the teams they played, the players that were unavailable during some of those games, the list of quarterbacks they went against, it was surprising to me to an extent that we got complaints on that in the post-game show. Understandable, and I think everyone is entitled to feel whatever they want to feel in terms of some trepidation as you head into the playoffs. It's not the greatest feeling in the world to lose.
There's some uneasiness. I understand that.
Yeah.
Mully, to your point, according to ESPN stats and info, the Bears finished 2-4 in the division.
Yes.
So they joined the 71 49ers, the 82 Packers, strike shortened season, 2010 Chiefs as the only team since the 1970 merger to win their division despite having a losing record in the division.
And all those teams won the Super Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I just made that up.
It's a fair point. You can't dismiss that. You can't say that. And I will respect anybody's skepticism about where the Bears are headed in terms of a matchup against the Packers. I believe two things, and I think this will guide a lot of how I look at this week. Number one, the Bears are a good football team, and in my mind, more equipped to win Saturday's game than the Packers are because of health and because of proximity and because of Ben Johnson. I think the Bears are in a position. And number two, I think that for a little perspective, and you don't have to go this route. And I'm just looking at it this way. A year ago this time, the Monday after the regular season, the Bears were starting a coaching search. And at the last regular season home game, the fans were chanting, "Sell the team."
Yes.
And this franchise has come a long way in a year. And I think that is going to color a lot of the perception this week in terms of what their expectations are and how far they have come.
Hey, listen, it is Black Friday. We've already seen a couple of coaches get fired after losses yesterday. There were 2 coaches that were fired in the regular season, and now there are 4 fired coaches. There will be a list of them added to that today. It is a dark day in the NFL, as
already started.
Anybody who has covered the league knows. And this is, it's real easy to say, I'll get rid of that guy, but you're getting rid of him. You're getting rid of the coaching staff. You're getting rid of families. I mean, there's a really difficult day around the landscape of the NFL. And it is a great relief that the Bears are not part of this, having gone through it a year ago. So there is plenty of reason to be positive and to feel good about where you're at. I just think there's so little time before Saturday. That is coming. That is looming over us. That's coming very quickly. And there are still areas where there's uncertainty, whether in your own mind or whether in their performance, whatever way you want to break it down. I think that if you had won that game, if you had just taken care of business and won that game, you got a takeaway at the end of the game, you had an opportunity to drive down the field a little bit, and that blew up on you, and then they end up winning that game, and you don't have any say about that last kick of the game. I think that had you won that game, despite everything else, you still would have had that.
You still would have had
feeling.
concerns. You're absolutely, if you're a playoff caliber team, there's no team going into the postseason that isn't concerned about something.
Right.
And I think the Bears' weaknesses have been more obvious in the last two games against teams that have exploited those shortcomings. Defensively, this team has a problem. It's not stopping the run well enough to get off the field. Yesterday, the Lions had 5 drives of 9 plays or more. They're sustaining drives against the Bears because they can't get off the field on third down. The man coverage is non-existent, and as Jaquan Brisker informed us post-game, the Bears are being out-schemed defensively because they find ways to get guys open. Listen to Jaquan Brisker indict everything that Dennis Allen had yesterday.
Allen said that they kind of used their strength against you, getting a lot of stuff in the middle of the field, their offense against your defense. Why was that? Why were they able to get away with that so easily?
I mean, we're playing a whole bunch of man today. No help in the middle. A lot of, picks, rubs. Really they schemed us up, and, we just had to do a better job covering. They just got us in the right call. They just out-schemed us, really. Just be honest.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's a little rough. It's a little rough.
How often do you hear a player post-game say that they were out-schemed?
Well,
very seldom.
They didn't play very good man coverage. Let's get that.
I'm not disagreeing with him.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that we were out-schemed was really a laudable comment. I don't know if he recognized what he was really saying.
He's not going to be welcomed in that meeting room necessarily without having to. That from a player is very.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's very difficult to hear after a loss like that.
Yeah.
Not that he was wrong,
but he was also admitting that they didn't cover very well.
That was it.
That would be the one saving grace to what he was saying. But that's an unfortunate turn of phrase that he used.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson had a long day in the slot, and I think
rough.
It's unfortunate he got injured. We'll see where he is in terms of concussion protocol.
Yeah.
It appeared that way. And he was being attended to by a trainer in the locker room a little bit, or just having conversations. I don't want to overstate what I saw or what people saw and reported. We just don't know yet. But he did have we do know he had a long day on the field. And they didn't give him a lot of help. And they didn't have an answer for Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is the best slot receiver in football.
Yes.
And he was targeted 13 times. I think he caught 11. You needed to counter that in a way the Bears defense has not countered anything the last 2 games out. That's a concern against the Packers, even as compromised as the Packers might be. Jordan Love coming back from a layoff.
Yeah, how compromised are they?
It's a good question. I don't know if these were
that's
rest.
An important question.
Was it or is injury?
Rest, didn't it? I think that Zach Tom will be back personally. I think that that, as you say, Jordan Love will be back. I think there's enough to be concerned about. Now, that's a really good question, because generally speaking, I don't believe in this kind of Beowulf theory of football. In other words, it doesn't matter if Gardner Johnson is down because Kyler Gordon is back.
Yeah, I don't think
everything is fine.
I don't think you counted anything from Kyler Gordon.
I just don't know.
How can you?
I don't know anybody who hasn't played, and I'm talking about Rome Odunze as well. Hey, he was jumping around the sidelines. He's ready to go. He looked like he was ready to go. He hasn't played in a while. He had a limited practice. I just think you gotta.
It's a difference in celebrating and running a route.
You gotta understand what it's like when you haven't played, and the difference between being rusty versus rested and all that stuff. So I don't know, just because people are on the field, that they're suddenly at their best and they're suddenly returning to. Now, it doesn't mean they're not. And that's a thing to worry about as far as the Packers are concerned with Jordan Love, who was playing at a very high level when he went down. But he did go down, and he hasn't played in a while. And they felt that it was better not to play him than to play him, which tells you a lot.
Jordan Love, you trust because he is who he is to that franchise. At the same time, you can't deny he might be a little rusty, and that could be something the Bears take advantage of. I don't think you're in a position, if you're the Bears, to count on Kyler Gordon any more than you need to.
Right.
He's played in 3 games this year, and he's only finished 2 of them, I believe. And he's one of these guys that you never know if he's going to be out on the pre-game warm-ups and pop a hammy.
Well, I mean,
you just don't know.
Well, we don't know if he's going to injure his foot again in warm-ups.
So you understand that it's tenuous in the secondary. Tyreek Stevenson, I'm curious to know whether him not playing had something to do with injury, or was there another reason? Because if he was active, why wasn't he on the field for even 1 snap?
And they were struggling in their coverage.
Rashawn Wright had a long day. Jalen Johnson is not the same quarterback that he is paid to be.
No.
Kevin Byard came up with a takeaway, and that's the thing that makes you hesitant, makes me hesitant, I'll say, to just give up on the Bears defense altogether, because they do find a way to make a key play when necessary.
Yep.
And that may be it's a hard way to make a living in the playoffs, but they do lead the league in takeaways still. They need to get better at rushing the passer and certainly earn that right by stopping the run.
Yeah, listen, it was a rough outing yesterday for the Bears. They did not play particularly well. And I hate to say it, but the one thing they managed to do was to shut down a team in the red zone again. They held the team to 19 points.
I know.
You would think going in, if you could hold them to 19 points, that you'd be able to score.
They're pretty good in the red zone.
They weren't against the Niners on the road, but they were against the Packers, and they actually were against the Lions. But I don't know if there's a flukishness about that, quite frankly, Mr. David. I just think that you also need people to kind of cooperate with the way they want to try to push different elements in the game.
Yeah, I think what they do in the red zone is they don't have as much ground to cover, and it's condensed playing field in that box, if you will. They're pretty good because they challenge routes more. They're not challenging routes as often as we saw them do earlier in the year, because maybe there's just not there seems to be more cushion, and there seems to be more space between the cornerbacks and the wide receivers for whatever reason. Maybe they're getting out schemed, or maybe it's just a performance thing. But Rashawn Wright has taken a step backward, or at least he's cooled off a lot.
Yes.
And so you've got a lot of issues in the secondary.
You can live with the way that he has played if he's getting the takeaways. But when he doesn't get the takeaways and you're just relying on him for coverage, that's not working.
That's a good point. You know what I was also a little surprised at, and we'll get into this throughout the show. Ben Johnson, as I said, was peeved post-game.
Yes.
But he was most peeved. We just talked about the defense and all its issues, and the last 3 games have been a sieve. And he was most upset by the offense. He felt like the offense let the Bears down yesterday, because the same unit that we were practically celebrating last week for scoring 31 against the Niners failed to show up for the first 3 quarters in the end zone. They were scoreless through 3, and then they had too little too late, and Ben Johnson was ticked off post-game because, in his mind, they didn't execute.
Right. Well, I mean, but see, this is the point. I think that when you came away from that game, you had to ask yourself, wow, like, are you more concerned about their defense or their offense? I mean, there are genuine concerns.
What's your answer?
Well, I will save it until we're asked that question.
I think it's a good debate, unfortunately, because
my answer is yes.
And Ben Johnson's answer, when because he said that, and to just clarify, I think we asked him again, are you talking about the offense? And that was exactly the phase he was discussing, because that's where he puts most of his emphasis.
Exactly.
And frankly, you've got the most prolific offense in Bears history. They scored yesterday. Their touchdown set their single season record for touchdowns in a season. That went scoreless through 3 and put yourself in that position to need what you needed late. So it's a fascinating week of preparation that the Bears will come back to today at Hallis Hall.
Yeah, there is certainly a lot to go over. I'm very curious about the message, though. I'm very curious if he's a truth teller, and we've heard that before, and they go over everything and they talk about it. You might benefit from telling a few white lies this week, right? You might not want to take that game tape and go over every element and break it down. You might want to move forward, because this thing's coming on Saturday night. This is right around the corner. There is barely enough time to get yourself. Listen, it's the third meeting in 6 weeks.
Third
you should
6
have a
weeks.
pretty good idea.
Familiarity will breed contempt.
Yes.
And it should.
No question.
It is the Packers.
Yes.
But you're exactly right. Whatever Ben Johnson did in August in the OTAs, after they started 0-2, he got the Bears to kind of believe in themselves and create this inner confidence that served them very well during their win streak. And as they went to a season that led to a division title, they need to find that again.
Yes, they do.
And they need to do it starting today.
Yes, no question about it. All right, we're going to get to the pick 6. We'll talk about all the stories of the weekend, but we're focused on this game as well. And we're going to get to your phone calls. I'm very interested to hear where the trepidation level is with various people as they evaluate this game coming up quicker than most. A Saturday night showdown. I love that it's on Fox here in Chicago, because it's obviously an Amazon game. And I just hate the idea that there are Bear fans that have waited this long for them to be in the playoffs, and now they got to sign up for something.
Did Al Michaels do the last home playoff game at Soldier Field?
Boy, he's been around a long time.
Did he do that one too? Uh-oh.